call to order the monthly meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board on Tuesday, August 16th, 2022 at 5 o'clock in the community room at the Frankfurt Plant Board. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member Long?
Here.
Here.
We have a quorum. All members are present. We're ready to do business. First item is consider approval of the minutes of July 19th, 2022 board meeting. Everybody should have those in front of them. If you've had a chance to review, make any corrections and changes. If not, do we have a motion? Do we have a second? We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Minutes are adopted. Next one is, this is your big one, Mr. Denton. This is the financial reports, item number 2, for the end of the fiscal year and for July. So you want to give us a status on how we finished the year and where we are right now?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Members of the board, good evening. As Mr. Ceva did say, we have for you our June 30th, 2022 financials. So our fiscal year does end in June. So what you have before you is all 12-month activity of the Frankfurt Plant Board. Currently, we are required by statute to get an audit every year from a external CPA firm. We currently do have Blue & Company that is working with us on auditing our financials. So what you have before you for our June 30th financials is what the auditors have in their possession and what they're auditing, those numbers that they're auditing off of. So I'll go ahead and start where we are for the year, page 19. This is our statement of net position, same as the balance sheet for a for-profit entity. You can see on line 60, total assets ending of the year is $215,900,000. And then you can see on lines 130 and 155 that our liabilities and net position equal the same, $215,900,000. Notable things on our net position, if you look at the main driver of the increase of 6.8% in total assets are two categories. Line 40, our intercompany loans receivable. As we discussed throughout the year, electric is loaning cash to water and telecom divisions for the Reservoir AMI and Nextband, in addition to some debt prepayment. So that you will notice on line 40, we have a receivable of just under $25 million, and then on line 90, a loan payable that's between water and telecom for the same amount. Those offset equal zero whenever you net them together, but we do show them separately as we do include those in the respectable income statements for each division. The other notable asset increase, line 45, as you know, we have a very comprehensive capital investment schedule. You'll notice there we have increase in assets, property, plant, and equipment outpacing depreciation by $11.2 million for the year. Of that, most of that activity is for the AMI or smart meter, reservoir, and fiber project. Those were $11.9 million alone in those three projects. So those two increases in assets were driving the increase in assets. You'll notice there, looking at line 130, liabilities are up $2.8 million. That's primarily driven by the intercompany loan payable. As you'll notice, we did have a substantial decrease in bonds and loans throughout the period of $21 million paid down, which is really good way moving forward. It's a massive decrease in annual debt service that's helping us out. So those are the main things to point out in the statement of net position for the year. I'll be glad to answer any questions or highlight anything else the board might want to on this statement.
Any questions of David? Okay.
If not, I'd like to move over, look at page 21. You can just see this is our bonds, leases, and loans schedule. You can see we started out the fiscal year at over $27.6 million, paid down $21.1 million, leaving just under $6.5 million in our 2013 series bonds and our third lien lease. So we have significantly decreased debt service annually, a decrease of $3 million per year.
And our major debt is the head end, right?
Yes, sir. That was the head end, as well as some improvements to our hybrid fiber coax system.
And then what we're reducing the head end, what, it's $750?
Yes, sir. That's $750,000 per year. So that pays off in June of 24, I believe.
Okay.
So here in about a year and a half, we'll be almost debt free.
Yeah.
Financial performance-wise, looking on page 24, I just want to highlight where we were for the year. Looking at budget to actual, we were about $500,000 below our targeted amount for the year, but we more than made up for that in cost containment. One of the biggest decreases budget to actual in our expenses was we had budgeted about $3 million for our pension adjustment at the end of the year, and that come in about $1.6 million in additional costs. So that was $1.4 million in a decrease in expenses than we expected. You can see there, when you look at, this is sitting on page 24, you'll notice that when we get to revenue minus our direct operating expenses, we're very much in line with what we thought. And then the reduction in operating expenses, we had a pretty healthy variance there, about $2.6 million better than expected, with that main driver, the difference being the pension adjustment. So,
And you might explain it, just for the board or anybody watching, as I understand it, we're paying our regular employer contribution on employees based on salary.
correct.
And then the pension system, CERS, based on the accounting rules, takes their unfunded liability and spreads that liability to all entities participating in the system. And basically, it's a paper entry. We're not paying that per se in, but that's what, if they dissolved, everything went away, that everybody'd have to pay in additional to pay out all current claims against the retirement system. Is that correct?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But we have not, during the year, for our employees and everybody else, we've not been underpaying our pension contribution. We've been paying the regular contribution just like everyone else.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is just a required GASB, Generally Accepted Accounting Principle, journal entry we have to make every year. So overall, you can see very steady revenue, below on expenses, better than expected year, and we did better than the prior year as well, actual fiscal year 21 actuals. So overall, pretty solid year. I'd be glad to answer any questions on where we sit for fiscal year 22.
Let me just ask David, and then anybody else has any questions. We know how we finished the year, but as the year progressed, did you see anything the last 3 months of the year in terms of the way things are trending that gives you any concern for this current year going forward?
I just think the current economic environment we're in with rising prices, I mean, that's just something that's, how long that's going to stay and how that continues to affect the plant board is definitely a concern. Our revenue is pretty steady. We're not really growing as a company. So if we can just, it'd be great to be able to have some growth in, of course, we want our lowest bills to customers possible.
Right.
But the more that we could grow as far as our current business environment here in Frankfurt, it would help the plant board out quite a bit with our fixed costs. But looking forward, as you see for July in our financials we provided, we had a better than expected month in July. So we're off to a good start. I think the main thing is just hopefully we can contain costs and stay below our budgeted amounts for 23.
Does anybody have some questions for David?
We'll be bringing the final audit to you. It could be as early as September, but probably October we'll have the final audit for you and can address 22 one more time.
Okay.
Other than that, I appreciate it.
Okay. Do we need two motions or one, Hans? Do we need one for the June 30 financials and one for the July, or can one motion do?
You could have one motion that approves, motion to
Both.
approve both June and July.
Okay. So do we have a motion to accept the financial statements for June 30, 2022 and July 31st, 2022?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are accepted. Thanks, David. Ms. Poe, anybody for public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Informational items, Mr. Foster. As always, you're the master of ceremonies on this.
Yes, sir. We will start tonight with the Network Operations Center. Darren Rambo is on virtually with us tonight. Darren, can you give us the Network Operations Center report?
Yeah, hey, good evening, everyone. Not a whole lot to report from the last month. You can see in July, we handled 3,039 phone calls, so again, a very busy month. If you go back and look at these reports over the past 3 or 4 months, you'll notice those numbers have doubled and even tripled from the amounts we've seen in the last year or so. So it's getting busier and busier. which is good. That means we're doing, reaching out to more customers. We're also having some outages and stuff as well, so it's just busy. On the locate side of the house, in July, we did 756 locates, which is about on track for July with projects and stuff coming. So that's it, unless you guys have some questions for me.
Darren, do you have any sense, or, and David was talking about growth, do you have any sense on the locates, is it just people wanting to move a bush and a tree, or do we actually
No.
have new construction going on? People building new homes,
not at
new?
all. We have the bush and the shrub locates, obviously, every summer we
Right.
do those. But what you don't see on that report, and it's really killing us, is the locate numbers are big, but a majority of those locates are large projects. And, a bush locate might take 15 minutes, but one of those large project locates might take a day. It might be locate 1,200 feet of street. So it doesn't really reflect exactly what they're doing because, one locate, you can't compare locate to locate, I guess. A shrub locate is a much different animal than a large project locate. And, you guys know, like I do, we have several large projects going on and we have more planned in the future. Us and the city and other folks, other businesses around. So it's going to get busier and busier. We're barely keeping our head above water right now. So if more big projects come, I'm not sure how we'll handle it. We'll take it in case it comes, I guess.
In future meetings, Darren, would it be possible just to give us a really brief kind of little additional update in terms of the locates, how many in fact would be brand new service as opposed to, like you said, doing things like, landscaping or other type things, but how many represent like new business expansions or new residential expansions?
Yeah, but you mean more, not just new customers on our part, but you're talking about large project locates, even
New construction.
other people's fiber projects, street projects, and all those large commercial projects.
John Snyder just said new construction.
John,
New
is
construction.
it too cumbersome to notate the hours it's taken to do a project? Is that too cumbersome?
I'm not sure how that's hardly possible, because we don't really track the time on scene, if you will. They might do, again, a large project, I may have 2 guys in a subdivision for a week. Then the other guy's out doing all the other locates, the fences and the shrubs and the small landowner locates. So it's pretty hectic from start to finish, day to day. I'm not sure about tracking the time, but I can sure tell you how much construction we're doing.
Yeah, if you could take a look at that and put together something for us and bring it back next month.
Yeah.
And then
no
let's take a
problem.
look at it and kind of see if we've got some follow-up. Is that okay with you all?
Yeah.
Catherine?
Do you already keep track, what would the data be that you already take, like by feet or?
Yeah, I can go back into our 811 reporting system and I could tease that out now. So I could just include it in my actual knock report. I can break that down a little differently to show what some of those projects are.
Because I know the city, the county, everyone's interested in terms of economic development, some new growth, housing availability in Franklin County and so forth. And it'd be nice to know if we in fact are seeing some growth in our service area which hopefully will help Mr. Denton's situation.
Sure, we are. We're seeing growth. I'm not sure all that growth is potential plant board customers, but there's a lot of growth happening.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Darren? Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Ben?
All right, next we'll move to customer service, and that will be Cassie Estel, and that is on page 181 to 184 in your board package. Cassie?
Hi there. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I got a new computer and I wasn't sure if it was working right, so thank you. Our board reports, as Vince stated, are on pages 181 to 184 in your board packet. Just wanted to note a few things this month, that our payment arrangements continue to go down. We are at a total of 265 arrangements, which is a decrease of 31 more accounts. And then for our ACP program that we're trying to get people to participate in throughout the community, we're up to 556 accounts, and that is up 22 accounts from the prior month. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have.
And I assume, maybe Kathy, if you can answer, or Kathy Lindsay, are are we seeing any, are we picking up any more on our, the federal program with school being back in? Reaching out?
Up 22.
Up 22, but I mean, how many kids alone do we have in Frankfurt Independent? I mean, it's huge, the potential out there for.
I'll talk about that.
Okay, Kathy?
Do you want me to go now?
Sure. You can only hide back in that control room so long.
Yeah. As I reported last month, we have been taking extra efforts to reach out to our schools, specifically at back-to-school bashes, resource officers. We did print out, and you'll see, we've left some stuff for you.
Yes.
Those are some marketing materials about some of our programs and products we have going on that we have put out. I don't know if any of y'all had seen the new service catalog too that we have out for this year. So that's just things y'all can kind of see what we're doing. The ACP flyer that you have there, Mr. Cubine, that's something that we printed out. Last year we sent all the schools a digital copy, thinking maybe they could just email it to their parents or run copies themselves and put it in folders. So we're like, nope, we're gonna go one step further this year. We printed them out ourselves and delivered them to the schools and have showed up at their events to make sure that they have this information in hand. So we did see an uptick this month, and hopefully as the schools are getting geared up again here last week and this week, we'll see another uptick next month. So.
And could I ask you one question about the next ban?
Sure.
And we probably already thought of it. It just hit me. You know how those things hit you, which is dangerous. Yeah.
All the time.
All the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Have we ever thought about a referral program that, like, if I've got next ban and I get John signed up,
Okay.
then I get $25 off my next bill one
Okay.
time.
That is
I mean, I
not
just wonder, have we ever
something
done
that we
anything?
have discussed, but I'm sure I'll get with Harvey and David and we'll see if that's.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good. I mean, a lot of businesses do a referral fee. If you bring
Sure.
in another customer, banks do it all the time.
Uh-huh.
They'll put so much in your savings account or whatever if you
Right.
bring them somebody. So it's not like you're writing a check. You're either giving a credit on the bill or putting money in control in the organization. So
Sure.
it's just one of those things that just flashed. It's gone now.
Okay, I appreciate it. Well, hey, we'll take any input we can get. We appreciate that for sure. I'm going to try to be.
Yes, sir.
I'd like the record to show that I think I had next band before you, so I would get the.
Yes, and it's true. But as you remember, sir, I asked you to pay my bill and you wouldn't pay it. So anyway.
Okay. And I didn't want to cut Cassie off if she's not done.
I am finished unless the board members have any questions of me.
You want to be finished now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Cassie? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm next. So I promised Adam that I would try to be brief.
Okay.
Because actually I do have a video I want to share with you all, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first things first, I wanted to share this with you guys. At the KMU annual meeting in Owensboro last month, our very own Gary Zing, our general
Yes.
manager, was awarded the 2022 KMUA Excellence in Municipal Utility Management Award for his innovative and superior management skills. Annette shared with me the information that he was awarded this via a vote of his peers within the membership of KMUA for successfully managing multiple city utilities and exemplifying superior managerial, technical, and fiscal skills to benefit his community, utility, and customers. So congratulations, Gary. We're very proud of him.
Congratulations,
And
Gary.
he got this really cool.
And there's no money that
glass
goes
thing.
along with that, so congratulations.
I really try to keep, first keep quiet. Miss Cuban said, no. And eventually I agree. The bottom line really is, it's not Gary. It's the 211 people put in effort. The result of it, I think a lot of, I would say, reflect your decision too. I'm just in the right place. They give the credit. But I believe this is a Plan Board award.
Well,
not
well-deserved award.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yeah, he didn't want to talk about himself. I was like, I'll talk about it. So the next thing I want to talk about is the only thing I want to talk about tonight, because I do have a video I want to share. Last week, Crystal Simpson and I were able to go to Letcher County to visit our water crew there. We took a camera for video and some stills. We got to interview James Dixon, he works there at the Letcher County Water District, and then one of our guys there, Bruce Bratton, we interviewed him as well. And so I just wanted to be able to share that. David, I'm not sure, are we doing photos first or video? Photos. Oh,
You want me to give a little synopsis about the system?
just real quick.
Just
Yeah.
real quick, this will only take a minute.
Okay.
So Letcher County, their water system has 200 miles of water main. They have approximately 2,900 to 3,200 customers. They have 6 pump stations, 8 water tanks, and this is what I've been told. So, and also they buy their water from surrounding counties, so they don't make their own water. They buy their water. So, I wanted to see all the pictures you took and the video, and Bruce, because I know how thorough he is, to see what all he's going to share.
Bruce is going to give us the rundown.
Yeah. So.
But I did want to share that, and it's not in there, they have 4 employees who work out on the system, on the distribution system. So
Yeah.
4 and the terrain there is just like something that we've never seen before. The worst areas that you have to go to make repairs may only have 2 people on that line, but it's up in a holler and those people need water. Again, for us, it was just unbelievable to see the damage. We see pictures and video, like we're going to show you today. That's a house, and that's just the back porch left, and that's the house in pile of rubble there. And they still had that electric pole right there. They had a line coming down from it with an extension cord that you could see goes right here that went around to where those tents were set up, and they had a fan plugged up to it, and they were living in a tent, and there was a camper there too.
It's been very humbling for the
Oh,
guys.
my gosh.
When they got there, there's 5% of the customers have water, so
Yeah.
so they really did need help, and
Yeah.
we've been able to provide that help.
So we're proud of them. We talk about when we do mutual aid, our electric crew has a lot of opportunities to go do this. And from what we can tell, this may be the first time a water crew has been requested
This
for.
is the first time
Yeah.
a water crew's been able to render aid to another county, so it's a big deal, and the guys really jumping to go help them.
So we've had a crew there, and that's who we're with, the first crew. And then while we were there last Thursday, they switched out. The second crew got there, and that has been there
Yeah.
this week, and will be there through the end of this
Some
week.
of the challenges, like there is like no cell service there, so it's hard to talk to the guys. They'll usually give me an update in the afternoons. Trying to get lodging was a big deal. I mean, we didn't have anywhere to stay in Letcher County. The first crew went down in a camper and stayed at a campground. The second crew staying about 30 miles, well, about 30 minutes out from where they're working. So
Yeah.
so
When Crystal and I went on Thursday, whenever we've done this before, and we've gone to meet a crew, like last year when we went to Western Kentucky for our electric crew, we went to the area, and I knew that I could call Mike Aldridge and he could tell us where they were, and we would meet up with them. There was none of that happening in Eastern Kentucky. We went to the water district office and let them know we were there. They contacted our crews, and there was no us meeting them there because they were like, "You will never find us. You will never find us." So Bruce came in the truck and picked us up and put us in, and we were with them the rest of the day. We we had a day in the life of the water crew, and it's again, I teased because Crystal was with me, and she kept saying, just the flood damage was one thing, but she was like, "I'm just a girl from the suburbs of Chicago." So just being here anyway and seeing, the lifestyle of Appalachia and Eastern Kentucky was just all new to her. And so we were so proud of our guys, and we did some video, and we're putting together a package for the show, but Zach put together just kind of a rough cut of the interviews we did, just so you can see and hear from them what they've been doing. So here we go. And the first person you'll see is James Dixon, and he's from Letcher County Water
he was the
District.
representative that was with our people down there.
Right. Oh, and I will say, and this is so funny, the first crew, that they were so disappointed that they hadn't seen a bear.
Oh, is that?
They wanted to see a bear or a snake. Hadn't seen either.
Some of them don't.
We've started getting rain probably around midnight on Wednesday night, and then by 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock Thursday morning, the waters was getting high and starting getting across the bridges and roadways, and it continued to rise until probably around 10 or 11, maybe even a little bit later than that the next morning before it started receding. Approximately at 1 a.m. on Thursday morning, me and the general manager, Mark Lewis, got a call out to cut some water off in the icing community, and we actually was stranded between the bridge and the mudslide for about 11 hours that night, and we really didn't know how bad it was across the whole county. You know, we knew it was bad in that area because we was stuck there on the highway, but you know, when we finally got out from being stranded, we could see the amount of damage that was across the county. First action was to get over to Knott County. The cell phones and everything was out, so once me and the superintendent got out of being stuck and stranded, we went over to Knott County to get in contact with them because they feed us with probably 80% of our water, to check their situation, and their situation wasn't much better than ours. They knew they had a lot of main breaks, and you know, with electricity being out everywhere, we couldn't even pump water to the tanks if they had, you know, wasn't any main breaks. We have close to 3,200 customers in our system, and approximately 192 miles of line. At the time of the flooding, we still had a lot of water left in our tanks, and there was some areas that lost water immediately due to main line breaks draining the tank, but there was a few areas that still had water left in the lines and tanks that didn't get that much damage. But I would say the first day after the flood, we probably was 80% of our customers was without water, if not more. We have 4 men that work outside in the distribution part of it, maintaining the lines and getting water to the tanks and everything like that. And there's just no way that 4 of us could do any of this without the help from you all and the other people that's came to assist us. Since y'all got here the first day, we pretty much just rode around and got the lay of the land and which areas we were going to work in. And since Saturday, we have restored approximately 50 miles of line, and I was close to 1,000 customers back in service. It's really important just because, you know, we get these disasters that happen that, you know, that no one sees coming and can predict it. And, you know, they're comparing this to the 57 floods, what I've always heard. Mm-hmm. And, you know, back in 1957, we didn't have any of the infrastructure we do now, especially in the rural area here. And so we've never really seen anything like this before. And, you know, we're glad to get the help, and we're glad to give the help back when it's, you know, needed. I'd say it's going to take us a month or maybe a little longer to get back to normal, but I would say hopefully by the end of this weekend we'll be back to, I'd say 75 to 80% of our customers back in service, if not more.
Well, you know, 21 and a half years, it's never been offered since I've worked here, and it's never been offered actually to the water department in general. Something different, get to go meet new people, help other people out. So I just, you know, I was all for trying something different. You know, get to go with a group of guys, you know, bond and get to know each other a little bit more. And I just thought it was, you know, a good way to, you know, just represent what we've learned and the knowledge over time to assist others. Well, you know, day one we got here on Friday afternoon, kind of a little meet and greet. Got the camper set up, come back to the shop, went out, surveyed some damage, got to know the area, came up with a game plan on what we're going to do Saturday morning. And pretty much the game plan from Saturday morning is kind of what we've been doing every day. Main thing is, you know, is the isolation process, checking for leaks, turn valves on, isolate the side streets, the holler areas, anywhere the water could go off the main line. The main focus was to get the 8-inch main line in service and get that pushing from the outer areas of the town, from the county into the town. And then as we did that, we would go back, open the valves to the side streets, once again check for leaks, flush the line extensively, and just worked away, and, you know, it's been pretty much the same thing ever since, Saturday morning. And now we're to the point where yesterday and today we've gotten 2 pump stations back online, and we're working on the second water tank, getting it online. One thing that's been really helpful, this is a much smaller system as far as customers and meters and, you know, but it's set up really good. It seems like it's got it's valved off well for isolation purposes. It's got plenty of hydrants for flushing in, you know, the right areas. So taking in, you know, some stuff we've learned over the years at home and then coming to here, it's actually been a pretty easy process. Other than not knowing where any location of the streets are, the tanks, you know, working with James, he's really been able to help us out with getting us around the back roads, and, you know, other than that, it's kind of been you know, just kind of goes hand in hand. You know, overall, I think it's kind of overwhelming with people wanting to, you know, take their turn, you know, groups of 4, groups of 5 coming to assist. But, you know, once you got here to start the process, it was different. Realizing you have no cell service. That was just a big change, because it's very rare anywhere in Frankfurt you don't have cell service. But then, you know, like I say, the overwhelming response with people wanting to volunteer, you know, get groups of 4 or 5 come down here and take their turn. I think that kind of speaks volume for the overall, for the guys and their knowledge and, you know, what they're wanting to do to help somebody else. There'll be some good communication with James or Mark, with our Superintendent Brian Bourne, and be able to give them pretty much the, you know, we need more help, or, you know, we've got it for now. Because actually what we've been doing is getting water back on in the system. According to James, there's still heavily damaged areas with multiple leaks. They're waiting on more material to get here to repair those lines. And with only 4 guys working in the field, it's probably gonna be really difficult and time consuming for them to get that, get it resolved. So I'm hoping we can, you know, help out for another month or so. So the biggest challenge for us has probably been just getting familiar with the area. You know, not everything's paved and pretty sidewalks. So when you're going out in these areas, you don't know if you're, you know, if you're on the side road or if you're on a private driveway. Some things look different. You know, not having our own personal maps at the hand of our cell phone to look at kind of takes away from the old paper maps that you always had in your, you know, your pickup truck. So just getting, you know, generally localized with the system has been kind of tough. But once, like say, James has given us good leadership and guidance, we've worked together as a team. We split up into groups of 2 or 3 and go separate ways, and then we work on getting water on and flushing and getting ready to go to the next section of line. You talk to people, kind of get an idea what they've got going on, if they do have water, if they don't have water. In this situation, is working on the side of the roads, working valves, turning valves, flushing hydrants. They're stopping, they're talking to us. You know, hey, you're not from here, where you from, whatever. And generally, it's been overwhelming with the support and thankfulness that they've had. There's been 2 customers in general just asking some basic questions on when the water would be back on. Actually, the water was on in one situation and she was unaware. The other customer was told tomorrow it would be back restored. And, you know, these 2 ladies, they just broke down and started crying because they're just so sincere about the help that we're giving them, and the other contractors helping as well. So, you know, it just makes you, at the end of the day, it feels like you're doing your job. Plus, you know, people are they're just really thankful, appreciative, you know, all the above. You know, it just makes you feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Biggest reward is, you know, seeing these people be so thankful, being appreciative. You know, a lot of these people have lost virtually everything, but then they're still offering, you know, you need any food, you need any water, you know, anything like that. Seeing them emotional and upset, crying out of happiness, it just makes you feel like, you know, once again, you're doing your job, and you're reaching out to another community that's been really, really damaged, and you're going above and beyond what your basic job title is.
Okay. Again, those were the long form of the interviews we're doing. We're putting together a video package with some other video. We also did some stuff at the That was the Letcher County Central High School, where that's their distribution hub for donations. They have a drive-through where somebody's cooking in the kitchen, in the cafeteria, and if you need food, you just pull up in your car, you don't even have to get out, and they just bring you boxes of food and meals, hot meals. So again, it was a moving experience for us to be there, and we're glad that our water department is helping. We were proud to, anywhere we went, we told them who we were with, and we're like, they're getting your water back on. You know? So we were so proud of them, and I just wanted to thank them and give them a little love.
As of this morning, the update was 95 miles of water main back on and 1,800 customers back on that the plant board's assisted with. So I think we're going to be there at least another week. So
Well, Brian, I think, the board may, and for the whole staff, what the electric people did earlier in Western Kentucky, what you're all doing in Eastern Kentucky, what the staff here does all the time to support like local charities and everything. I mean, what this organization means to this community is incredible. And I know this board and everybody is just really proud of you all and what you all do.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you all.
We're glad we can go out and help people. That's what it's all about.
You all do it every day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next department we'll talk about is Telecom, and that's Superintendent Adam Heller will give that report, and that's on page 185 through 188 in your board package. So he'll give you an update on the Telecom department and then a little bit of an update on next ban as well.
Good afternoon. The board report starts on page 185 with customer penetrations, and we added the column back for our budgetary numbers. So that information's in there now. The outage report, we had 3 outages for July. They were pretty much storm damage, all blown fuses, and trouble call was up for the month based on a lot of those storm events that we had. Next ban, the crews are done in Berry Hill and Crown Point. They're working right now in Cedar Run subdivision, which is a subdivision off Old Lawrenceburg Road, next to the old bowling alley, that area. They're working underground there. Construction crews are finishing up in Bell Point and working in Indian Hills and Silver Lake, installing fiber in those conduits. We actually turned on a subdivision, Franklin Heights, which is Lions Drive area. We turned that section on this week, and so we'll be taking orders over there. And then Node 36, which is basically Myrtle Avenue back to East Main in that area, that'll be turned on in the next couple of weeks as well. So we'll be taking orders in those areas. The countywide project, we have established all the piling boundaries, and we're working right now on some easement stuff and trying to get some hard deadline and dates for the walkout, and also some equipment purchases to try to get ahead of the long lead times.
Once you notify a neighborhood that we're ready to turn it on, what's been the response? What's been the reaction, the response rate, or the interest rate?
To be honest, we've been so busy we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, just with everything going on, I can't really track that. We could probably come back and know. It seems like we'll get when we first turn the area on, you'll get a burst of customers come through, and then a lot of times, and we'll talk about it later on with some agenda items. We're trying to get those scheduled and get everything going, so we kind of lose track of how many we're actually taking on, but we're trying to keep the wait times at a minimum. We had them get out to about 2 weeks, and now we're trying to push them back. And we're trying to make sure anybody that calls in, we can get installed and turned up in 5 days, which has been a challenge, especially when we were doing some of the call campaign. But we're trying to focus on that. So,
Any questions for Adam? John?
Yeah, Adam, I think we talked either last meeting or a previous meeting. At some point in the customer service penetration data you give us, are you going to split out the next band versus the regular?
yeah, I was hoping to have that in there, but
That's fine. It might be a little early for it, but
yeah, I mean the number's going to be low, but what we see, we'd like to see both lines grow, but definitely
Right.
if we're losing one, we want to see it make up on
Right.
the next band side.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
How do folks know that things are installed and they can sign up?
Last time we did a call campaign and actually called, but we're actually sending mailers out. You can go to our website and pre-register. So when it is available, we'll reach out to you. There's a couple different ways you can but typically we're doing direct mailers.
And can people go on the website and see exactly what's going on and when their areas?
They can put their address in and it'll tell them if it's available. I don't know how far out in the future it goes because we were cautious on how far out we wanted to go, but yeah, they can get the information on the website.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move to electric. I think we have Scott Hudson on virtually here. And the electric report is on page 189 through 196. Scott, are you online?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, as Vince said, we start on page 189 for the month of, we're in July. We are at, on our safety reports 26.159. We had a total of 41 outages for the month, and we had a total of 308 customers affected. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Scott?
Okay, next we'll move to Travis, the Chief Electrical Engineer. He'll give us an update on AMI. I'll talk about some of these items.
Sure, thank you. So as of the 1st of August, we're at 7,728 electric installs and 5,473 water installs. We discussed last month a little more thorough AMI update. I think there were some questions about where we are deployed and what our deployment strategy was going into AMI. So beginning on page 193 of the board package, I've included 3 maps in there that shows our current deployment status. The first one, electric and water combined, and then I broke it out into 2 separate maps, electric only, water only. And if you look at the 2 electric and water maps, you'll see that for the most part they line up 1-to-1, more or less, but there are a few areas where we may have water only or electric only. In terms of the deployment strategy, there were 2 primary drivers we were trying to achieve: minimize the customer impact and get it built as fast as we could without getting too far ahead of ourselves where we were making mistakes. So how we approach that in practical terms: number 1, we wanted to follow the network. So we would build a network site. We pick network sites that would pick up the most customers, build the network, and then deploy meters in that area. Doesn't make any sense to put a smart meter out with no network coverage. So that was our first kind of task. Second, we targeted entire meter routes. Basically, that was to avoid any unnecessary headaches with the existing meter reading staff. To do half a route that was over the air, half the route they've got to go do, it just became messy. So that was another driver. Try and do an entire route. Once you start it, finish it. And then third, replace the oldest equipment first. A lot of that oldest equipment would be manually read, so you can think maybe like a disc meter. You actually physically have to walk up to it and take a reading as opposed to a drive-by. So those were kind of the 3 points we tried to follow. Again, that was the plan from the start. Things, of course, have changed a little bit due to the supply chain shortages. We really pivoted from stick to the plan to build what we have. So say, for instance, if we had 1,000 electric meters on the shelf and 0 water, well, those electric meters weren't doing us any good sitting on the shelf, so we would go ahead and deploy those. So it's been piecemealed more than we would have liked, but we're trying to build what we can with what we have and just, again, keep working through the material shortages. No real substantial update on that front just yet. I'm hoping by the end of this year, over the next few months, we'll have a little bit more firm update when they'll be able to fulfill deliveries, but that's kind of the current state of it. Any
update on the supply? I mean, is it just, are we getting anything in, or are we just sitting waiting for weeks? Or
yeah, water's getting a little bit of material. They're getting enough to do, 50, 100 here or there. So they're kind of steadily moving along. We've got a little bit of electric in stock, but we're gonna keep a handful on hand just in case maintenance needs or new development. So electric's been pretty dried up for a while, and we're just kind of hanging on to what we have to meet maintenance needs. So,
any questions for
Yeah,
John?
Travis,
Yes, sir.
Right now, 7,700 and change on electric, 5,400 and change on water.
Right.
Total numbers we're going to need when this is fully implemented are?
21,000 electric and about 17,000 water.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
No questions? Okay. Travis, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ben?
All right, next we'll move to the Ceva Report. That is page 197 to 199 in your board package. you'll notice for the month of June, we cleared $490,430. So that for the calendar year, that brings us to 1.33 million. And you can also see on the next pages, we have the month-over-month comparison. And then on the last page of the report there, 199, we have the history of Ceva. You can also see when you look at the 198, when you look at the month-over-month, you can see, if you remember how hot June was and the market prices for energy were through the roof, and everyone in the country was, or the Midwest certainly was struggling with their energy prices, the market was up. So that explains the higher margins that we're able to get on the Ceva energy for that month of June. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board might have on Ceva.
For how Ceva came in compared to what we budgeted, David, how did we do on that?
For the year of 2022, let me get back to you on that, Mr.
I've got it
Kymea.
handy if
Go
you
ahead.
want. Sure. So for the budget year, again, June ends the budget year 21-22. We had budgeted 830,000, so we made 1.99 million, so almost 2 million. This year we have budgeted 1.3 million, again, not knowing. We upped it significantly due to what the market's been. So 1.33 is what we have in this current fiscal year, which will be starting with the next month's report.
Any questions for Vin?
If the board doesn't have any more questions there, I'll turn it over to Gary for the Kymea report.
I really don't have much new, but one thing I do want to draw your attention is the Kymea, since they started a new year operation since July 1st, which is the first year we don't have the 100 megawatt coal from Illinois anymore, and also reflect the new market condition currently. And talk a little bit more about the market really have a very high price compared to what we have in the past. What happened is I heard, which is I will confirm report you later because I didn't see the report yet. Kymea cash dropped 5 million in the first month's operation this year. The reason is because the cost increased, but they keep the contract sell to the member. It's just almost same like last year. That's the main reason. I think more fundamentally, they only go 15-16% go to market purchase, but they do run Paducah, which is Paducah based on natural gas price instead of currently $8 to $9. The second part will say the long-term contract with other provider, other coal or system average Duke Energy, all based on the system average fuel. So when their fuel cost increase, will pass through to Kymea too. So I will monitor that condition, let you know more. Kymea look at it very, very carefully, and I already have a many conversation, and we figure out a way to. We don't want Kymea end up negative cash.
Right.
But at the same time, we don't have a desire to keep a lot of cash in Kymea either.
Exactly.
Yes, that's a provided service for us.
John?
And Gary, based on the conversations we've had about this already, that drop in their cash reserves was sort of expected because we kind of held the line on the price to the members and let them absorb that out of their excess, their reserve cash, correct?
Yes, we expect the cash go down, but I think we didn't expect 1 month to go that much. So we're going to be observed that it's going to be month to month like that, or this is just temporarily.
And we still have to
They're
resolve
currently-
that whole FERC depancaking federal court and what that means in terms of cost and possible refunds and so forth, right?
Yes, but I cannot talk a lot much on that.
Yeah.
It's still unfinished.
Oh, yeah, I mean, all we know is what the federal court ruled.
Yeah.
It's still got to go back to FERC, right?
Yes,
Yes.
the FERC decision is not final yet. But there potentially could be another potentially the market price may go down based on look forward price April next year. But until now, really nobody know. That's all forecast. There are a lot of factors about it. Mostly is the natural gas price and the coal price in this country. I think will go down, but nobody know when that will be. So we have to watch very carefully the Kymea every month, see what we can do.
I know I told Gary that for something else I do, I monitor state tax receipts, and coal severance taxes are up 55%. And that's not based on more tonnage, that's just based on price. That the coal they're selling is 55% more, generate more 55% more in coal severance tax than it used to.
If you ask the coal price, which is, if you year and a half ago, is like $40 per short ton, but today, how we heard is, you can see the price to indicate in the market every day. You talk about 120, so it's a significant increase. Gas price also is.
Yeah. Okay. Ben?
Yes, so next we'll move to the safety report for the safety department. And the safety director, John Lyons, will give you that report. That's on page 201 to 202 of your board package.
How you been, Mr. Lyons?
I'm good, sir. How about yourself? Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Vince said, page 201 through 202 represents our board report. For our OSHA recordables for the month of July, our telecoms department actually sustained one. One of our cable telecoms installers actually experienced some heat exhaustion symptoms, which resulted in medical treatment and a lost time. Actually, on our vehicle accidents, staying in the telecoms department and the installer section, one of those vans was involved with an incident with a wildlife, a deer, unfortunately. Cosmetic damage to the vehicle, but it still remained operable and no injuries to our employees. Happy to answer any questions.
Was the vehicle put out of service? Or
It was not put out of service. It was
Okay.
cosmetic only.
Okay.
To the hood.
Okay.
To the hood. Those deer they like our vans. For
Yes,
some
they do.
reason. They like our vans for some reason.
So you're saying
Well,
the
they're
deer
nice, they're
was
clean
put out of
looking.
service?
No, the deer was not put out of
Oh,
service.
good.
The
No, the
deer,
deer was not
the
put
deer
out
was
of
able to run off. It did put a nice, about, what do you call, a pie hole size right in our hood. The head had to go right there, so.
Yeah, a little epoxy, it'd be.
JC,
Yes, sir.
where did that take place?
Evergreen Road and 127, sir. It was a rainy Saturday, too. Rainy Saturday. I guess they were moving.
Yeah.
So.
Any questions for JC? Okay, water distribution? I'm sorry, Vent?
That's fine. Water distribution, we'll have Brian Bourne, the distribution superintendent, will start the water department. His report's on pages 203 to 205 of your board package.
Yep, good afternoon. Like Ben said, pages 203 through 205. We installed 13 new services, which is, that's a good sign. That's up a little bit. We had 9 main breaks. I'm hoping our main breaks are slowing down. I'm seeing signs that they are. And we had 5 outages. Besides that, our construction crews, we're continuing work on a line replacement project on Cedar Crest and Ashwood Court. And we've got a couple other projects that are getting ready to start, so staying busy. I'll answer any questions.
On the work we're doing down in Eastern Kentucky, did we have to take any materials? Did they have the materials, or can we get materials for down there, or how's that?
So far, they've had the materials that they
Okay.
need, so that's been good. Yeah.
Do they, are their materials pretty much standard to what we use, or are they different, or?
Well, our system's ductile iron pipe, most of it is.
Okay.
We do have PVC out in our district areas. Their whole system's PVC, so we're real familiar working with what
Okay.
they have. Their service lines are PEX pipe. Our service lines here are copper pipe,
Okay.
but we can work with either one, so that's not been an issue at all, so.
Any questions to Brian? And again, thank your crew on behalf of the board for
I
everything they
will.
did. I mean,
Tomorrow morning, I will. I appreciate it.
Okay.
They appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, thank y'all.
Okay, next we'll have David Billings, the Director of Water, and he will provide the reservoir report for you.
Good evening, Board. Had a construction progress meeting on August the 10th. We have received and approved our 12th payment request. Project is 85% complete with 78% of the contract time elapsed. Demolition of the North Basin is now complete. What you will see ongoing over the next month is continued construction of the retaining wall and continuing backfill around the new tank and the former North Basin. Happy to answer any questions.
And then when will the actual, like, kind of restoration of the property and landscaping and the grading, when will all that happen?
This fall is the
Okay.
schedule.
And everything as far as changeover and everything's worked fine and in terms of going to the new tank and,
Correct.
yeah, good.
No
Any
problem.
questions for David?
Good deal.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we will do the water treatment plant report on page 207. And Brandon Powers, the water treatment plant superintendent, will give that report for you.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of July, the water treatment plant treated 269,450,000 gallons of water for an average daily production of 8.69 million gallons per day. Lock 4 averaged 5,929 cubic feet per second for a daily average of 3.83 billion gallons per day. There were 7.3 inches of rainfall recorded in the watershed for the month of July. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Chemicals and everything, supplies, everything working?
So far, we just, other than the one hiccup with the carbon, we're
Yeah.
fine. So we're able to get everything. Just we have to order a little further out.
Yeah.
So maybe a week early or something like that. But other than that, it's fine.
Any questions for, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Which is a good segue into the next item, which is, as you know, for the last several months, staff have been working, Vint, Gary, David Denton, Hans, looking at our whole procurement policy. And what Vince is going to present here is we got a couple things. One, some updates with current statutes. And two, we've had what appears to be certainly a current problem. How long-term, we don't know, but the ability is, in some instances, we need to be able to move quicker when we bid something or we try to buy something and vendors are telling us, if you want that price or you want this delivery date, we need to know now, not when your board meets. We need to know now if you want it. If not, we can't guarantee what's going to happen. So we've tried to look in terms of kind of compensating or what's proper oversight for this board, the transparency, what's our ability to get the service, the items, and the pricing to protect our ratepayers. And I know Vint and all of them have done a great job on this. So Vint, with that, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. You gave a good introduction as to why we're doing that, but as the board is aware, the current supply chain situation has created numerous challenges to the plant board's ability to procure material in a timely manner and to maintain adequate material inventories. The continually changing and limited availability of materials in the marketplace has created a situation where there is a need to increase our ability to quickly secure those items. Under current practices, some of the more scarce material items are spoken for and disappear from the vendor's inventory before the purchasing procedures can be applied and the purchase approved. In short, our current purchasing policy needs to be a bit more nimble so that we can quickly respond to material availability. So what we're proposing today is two changes. Number one, we are proposing that currently what we have is between $2,500 and up to the bid amount $30,000. We require 3 quotes. Well, as you can imagine, on a utility side, $2,500 doesn't go very far. Almost any purchase is going to run into that. And when we're trying to get 3 quotes nowadays, it's very difficult to do. Vendors are so busy, and we wait a lot of times and miss out on. We'll have a low quote or 2. By the time we get 3 of them, the first one's gone. So the recommendation is that we require no quotes for purchases less than $5,000. So rather than $2,500 and less, no quotes, it's $5,000 and less, no quotes. And then require 2 quotes for purchases between $5,000 and $30,000, where before that was 3 quotes. And then the next, our current practice that we have done here for quite a few years is that the board approves almost all of our bids and purchases above $30,000, even if it's in the budget and even if it's under the budgeted amount. The ability for the GM to approve bids has always been allowed in our policy that is currently in place, but it just really hasn't been the standard practice for probably 8 or 9 years or so. We've kind of moved into this situation where we bring all of them to the board, and again, good oversight, no problem there. But it does add 2 or 3 weeks sometimes or more delay in getting things approved, taking that particular step. So to address the issue, the recommendation is to have the GM directly approve some critical bid awards when they are included in the budget and under the budgeted amount. And when waiting on the board approval would result in a delay of the product or a higher cost as well. Under the proposed language, the board would then ratify and adopt the purchases at our next regularly scheduled board meeting if we implement that particular thing. So those are the two changes that we're really proposing here. I did update some language in the policy. I don't think the policy language itself had never been updated to the law where they changed from 20,000 to 30,000 as the bid limit, even though we operated under the 30,000 when the law changed. But so I cleaned up that language. What you see in your board package is highlighted in yellow, the changes that reflect the things I just summarized for you. The proposed changes, I think it's important to say that they do not alter any of our current purchasing authorization levels, and the existing checks and balances on all spending levels remain in place. So depending what department head checks it, and then it moves to the next level, if myself or David Denton would be checking purchases and then moving to Gary, those all stay in place just the way they are. So the existing policy as well as the recommended modified procurement policy are provided for you in your packet, as I said, and the recommended modified procurement policy has been reviewed by the purchasing agent, our finance director, the chief financial officer, and our staff attorney in it, and myself, of course, as well, and it meets with our approval as we reviewed it. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I also have, obviously, Hans, David, our purchasing department here, if we have other questions or we need to go into more detail on some things.
John?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Vin, for that summary. You know, the raise from 2,000 to 5,000, we've had some talk kind of back and forth about should it be 5, should it be 10, and kind of felt like 5,000 was a kind of a moderate step and see how that works. And
Sure.
if we need to raise it later, we can. I don't mind lowering and getting 2 bids instead of 3. And the last thing you talked about, the general manager's authority, it's my understanding you've talked to us about the fact that we've gotten some of these bidders that have come back to us when they've given us bids saying, you know, this price is good for a week, or this price is good for 3 or 4 days. And, you know, if we're on the 22nd of the month, you know, we've got another month before we have another regular scheduled board meeting. So the question is, do you call an emergency board meeting or a special board meeting to approve one contract, or do you trust the general manager to, you know, like I said, it's written in the policy. It has to be it has to be a budgeted item. It has to be within the budgeted amount. You know, and they have the leeway to do what they need to do. I just, I think, and especially now with what we've seen with purchasing going, where, you know, we go to some of these purchasing, we go to some of these bid items, and people are not guaranteeing us prices and saying, you know, the price, you know, we'll give you this price right now. The price may vary 6 months from now on a bid, which I didn't think was something people did, but apparently that's what we're doing in this new Wild West of purchasing we've got. But if we can, I think it's a way that we can streamline the operations, and more importantly than anything else, like Vince said, these decisions that Gary makes, if he has to make this decision, or whoever the general manager is, they have to come back to the board at the next meeting for our approval. So we're going to know about them, we're going to approve them, and if we feel as a board that they're starting to get out of line, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but if we feel that way, we can come back and change this purchasing policy anytime we want to. So that's kind of my feelings on it.
And if you look on page 3 of the handout, the highlighted, the yellow language, it basically says if the general manager determines based on written documentation, not just, you know, I've decided this, but documenting and writing, that certain items are necessary to carry out essential functions, and they're budgeted, and pricing can be substantiated based on bidding or price quotes, and failure to act will result in either higher cost or timely receipt of materials, the general manager, with immediate notification of the board, may act immediately to secure items, and then it'd be ratified at the next meeting. And basically the criteria would include it's an emergency condition that existed, materials or equipment were not available in the open market, and the materials were purchased from an existing bid that has been continued. So I mean, it's in terms of being tight, and like John said, it's you know, we've had a good procedure. Our purchasing staff, general counsel, and they have done a great job on it, but we're competing with firms in the private sector to buy the same materials, and it appears from what we're hearing they're just outrunning us because an investor owned can say, yeah, I'll take that right now, and we're saying get back to you in 3 weeks, but the board's probably going to approve it, but can you just hold that for us? And they're saying, no, you want it, you take it now, or call me back in 3 weeks, see if we still got it. So open it up for Steve, Catherine, Jason.
I agree with you with this process, but should just say, it says the board, I don't know if that means everybody, but I would say that should be the board chair, the board vice chair. That way, because board meetings could mean all of us need to be contacted as opposed to.
Well, I think the concept there, correct me if I'm wrong, was, because we can't, obviously, in that position, we can't act.
Right.
But to send out a thing to all five of us and say,
Yeah.
I'm exercising this to buy this.
You know, would we-
Everybody's on notice that this is happening. And if somebody says, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, that's the idea was
It's sent an email, to me, it's sent an email to one person, or 5 people rather than 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I
So, you know, I don't think
We
there's
need
much.
a response back.
No,
No.
no, we're not asking for a response because we're not able to do the business. Now, if there are concerns, then, like I said, at a meeting, we can bring that up, and that was the kind of the intent behind it, I think.
And another thing is just knowledge for the board members that if, a week later, you're going somewhere and you say, well, I heard y'all spent $100 and some thousand on that without bidding it, you can say, no, wait a minute, here's what we did and why we did it. Not just we did what. So it's those deer in the headlights moment that we try to avoid, so. Any questions to David or Hans or Vint? Like I said, they've done a great job of working through this, and I know they've gone through all kinds of versions and that, trying to come up with offsetting the need to act with transparency and notice, and hopefully maybe in a year or 2 years this will end, but I'm afraid this is probably the new normal in purchasing, especially, and we're going to see it more and more in cable, other places. We're competing with every cable company in the nation to buy materials. I mean, it's just the new norm, unfortunately, so. If there's no further questions of Vint, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the proposed changes to the FPB procurement policy number 16 as outlined in the documents given to the board.
Okay. Do we have a second? Jason's a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Vint, Hans, David, thank you all for all your work on this. I mean, I know you spent a lot of time on it. Okay, next item is item 5.2. Consider approval of professional services contract between wet or dry tank inspection services and FEWPB for services related to Taylor Tot tank rehabilitation in the amount of $64,000. And you might tell everybody where this one's at, David.
I will. The 1 million gallon tank on the east side of town. It's located behind where the DLG offices were. It's elevated steel tank. It's in need of some repainting and updo on the exterior coatings. We contacted Wet or Dry. We've used them in the past. They did an excellent job on the 127 tank. We negotiated the contract price for $64,000. We'll take their technical details. We'll advertise them. We're primarily using Wet and Dry for the specifications in the contract administration overseeing of the project.
And this is not the tank at Cracker Barrel. This is the other one on that side of town, right?
This is the other one on this side of town. Not the concrete tank.
Right.
Okay.
It's behind the Christian Academy, I think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of back there as well.
The current budget includes $500,000 for the project. Contract was provided to the staff attorney for review, and staff recommends that the board approve the contract with Wet and Dry Tank Inspection Services, contingent on receipt of required certificate of insurance.
Any questions for David?
What was the amount for the tank on 127?
It was $43,000. This tank is twice the size of that one.
Any other questions for David? Not, do we have a motion? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved. Thank you, sir. Well, you're still here. Number 5.3. Consider approval of amendment number 1 between Strand Associates and FEWPB for additional construction-related engineering services related to reservoir construction for a net increase of $32,000. Mr. Billings.
At the April 2020 board meeting, the board approved a professional services contract with Strand for final design and construction-related activities for the new reservoir. This amendment adjusts the existing engineering agreement to reflect the construction schedule extension that the board approved last June. The main change is the reduction of the reservoir monitoring program from 36,000 down to 2,100. That's what we've spent to date for that. That's no longer needed. And the construction related service extension down at the bottom is a lump sum addition of $66,000. The net increase is $32,100. The current budget includes $2.2 million for engineering and construction of the project. This amendment's been reviewed by the staff attorney, and staff recommends the board approve amendment number 1 with Strand Associates for a net increase of $32,100. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What's this do to our overall budget?
It's still fine. There will be a final adjustment at the end of the project. That's when we'll know how well we came in at. There's a lot of items in the construction contract that were estimates put in for the bid, and we keep up with the quantities throughout the project, and they pay the actual quantity, so there's going to be some adjustment at the end.
And I don't want to heap praise on anyone prematurely, but from the very beginning, Strand has seemed to be very on top of this as far as getting the work done and staying on top of it. And from the very first presentation, when you brought them in, I mean, they've always seemed to have done a good job so far.
From where we started out on this project is let's keep what we got and do some modifications and make it better. The many iterations that went through during design, they've done a good job.
Yeah.
They've done a good job.
Yeah, they always made very clear presentations, and were very responsive when the board had questions, so. Okay, do we have any further questions for David? Do we have a motion? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Amendment's approved. Thank you, sir. Consider award a bid invitation. Oh, this is my favorite ones. Invitation 1759 traveling screen replacement. Brandon, I love this one.
We love them too.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah, they're fun. The raw water intake station has 2 traveling screens that remove debris before the water is pumped to the plant. Screen number 1 has been in service for many years and is in need of replacement for reliable service. The second screen was replaced in 2020. The contractor will remove and dispose of the existing screen and install the new screen. Invitations to bid were direct mailed to 4 contractors and publicly advertised on July 6, 2020. I'm sorry, that should say 22, and July 10th of 2022. On July 20th, 2022, 1 bid was received from Atlas SSI for $194,272. The Water Department has budgeted $225,000 in fiscal year 22-23 budget, page 19, line 840 for the screen replacement. The cost for the previous replacement in 2020 was $191,450. Atlas SSI replaced the last screen and performs repairs and inspections as needed. Therefore, based on past work experience, staff recommends the board award the bid to Atlas SSI in the amount of $194,272.
You don't have a picture of it, do you?
Of the screens?
Yeah.
No, not.
I mean, it's not just, I mean, what is it? It fits on a extended long bed semi-trailer?
They're about 70 feet long. Yeah. Yeah.
So, when, you first think about a screen, but it's a screen.
I have some pictures I can share with the board if you'd like to.
I mean, I think it'd be helpful to see what we get for 190. It's a lot of.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see a picture, but it's 70 feet long. The material has to travel through 70 feet long of screens.
Well, the way that it works is when the water comes in from the river, there's a 48-inch pipe there. So it runs in, and these screens, they run on a motor. So these screens are, they're probably this tall and about this wide. So when the screen comes down, if there's any debris in the water, leaves, sticks,
logs,
rocks, anything, anything, it'll pick it up and it rotates around, and there's 62 baskets on these. So when it comes up, there's a spray bar in there, and it sprays water across it, and it pushes that out into a trough. And then it goes out of the trough down to the riverbank and just runs off. It keeps everything off of the pumps, from something getting in the pump, and, then you got a big problem, so.
Okay. And then you sent it to 4 contractors, but only 1 responded?
Yes, 1 responded.
Why was that?
I can't tell you that, I guess.
I have some insight on that.
Okay.
So a day or two before the bids were due, I started getting calls from other contractors that wanted to do the work. They were being misled by some of their manufacturers that they go to. Anyway, what makes Atlas different is they manufacture the screens and they install them. So they want to keep their workers busy. Other screen manufacturers manufacture them and sell them to contractors. So the normal contractors, we would normally have 3 or 4 others that would be interested in this. I don't think Atlas was willing to sell the screen to them. But the last time that they did it, Atlas beat the socks off everybody else because you're dealing with one company for both.
So they're really
$60,000.
they're the specialists who make the screens.
They make the screens and they install them and they maintain them.
They inspect also. They do our inspections.
And we are small potatoes compared to the electric industry. Although cooling water intakes on the Ohio River, that's their bread and butter.
Okay.
Isn't this manufactured out of Mississippi, doesn't it? Isn't that right? Gets shipped down there or that's where they make it and ship it out?
They've been great to deal with.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for John?
John, I know these screens. I remember back in 2020, originally it was a maintenance thing.
Yes.
We approved a bid for maintenance, and then they got it and said we need a new one.
Yeah.
It was way beyond
Right,
repair.
way beyond the useful life. These will have to start. How often are these things the new ones maintained? The one we installed in 2020, 2022. When will we start having to do a maintenance schedule on those? And their useful life is about how many years?
They're about 20 years.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so you get 20 years out of them, and they're inspected roughly every 4 to 5 years, and Atlas SSI does that. So they can come in and they bring divers with them, and they can dive if they need to, and they're a one-stop shop. So
And if they do repairs, my understanding is they'll pull the screen, we'll use the other screen while that one's in play, and then they'll take it off site to repair it most times, correct?
they can do that, and they can also do on-site repairs too.
Depending on the severity okay.
We can valve that off.
Okay.
There's 2 valves. If we can just close the one, if they're working on one, you close it off, and it just flows through the other side.
All right. That's it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, do we have a motion? We got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations, sir. Got you a screen. Yeah. Yeah. Item 5.5, consider award of bid invitation, 1761, contract labor, coax cable installations, JKC Communications. Adam.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, staff recommends award of bid invitation 1761 to JK Communications for HFC installation assistance. They've actually done work with FPB as a subcontractor under a different prime in the past. This other item ties to that, but we split these up. The last time we sent out for bid, we sent out a bid for fiber installation and coax. We split it up, thought we'd get more responses. The good news is it looks like it's about 12% lower than the last contract we had. So, like I said, they've done work in the past as a secondary contractor under FPB. So,
Now, are they working in our current area, are they
Yes, sir.
working on the expansion out in the county, or will they work
They're-
also in the county?
No, this is just our existing footprint. This only covers coax.
Okay.
So our old network, HFC.
Okay.
The actual cable network.
Any questions for Adam?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, in your, Adam, in your description, you said you sent the, directly to 5 vendors.
5 bidders.
That JKC was the low bidder. The tab sheet only has JKC.
Yeah, they were the only bidder. I'm sorry. Yes, they were
They're
the
the
only
only
bidder.
bidder,
Yes.
okay, all right. Well, we have done work with them in the past.
Yes, sir.
And their work's been satisfactory.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No problem.
Any other questions for Adam? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. We do have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Mr. Hillard, item 5.6, consider award of bid invitation number 1762, contract labor fiber installation to Federal Communication on Demand.
Yes, sir. That's a catchy name there.
Yeah.
This is actually for what we consider the county project, the next band. This is installation service for that service. And like I said before, we split it up, sent out 2 separate bids. We've never done work with these people. We did call and check their references, and I think we got positive. Everybody that called us back or we made touch with gave us positive feedback with them. Once again, they were the only bidder too. So hope everything's in order here. But what this basically does is gives us the ability to get that 4-day, 5-day install time. And, we'll bring them in, train them up and on how we do it. And so we do our direct marketing. If we need to bring more subs in, they can come in and help offset the staff. So.
Or what are you seeing? Are you seeing existing companies expand? Or are you seeing a lot of new upstart companies, given all the federal money and state monies out there across the nation on broadband?
I guess what I'm learning more and more is there's a lot of subs working underneath prime contractors, and, just like Custom Cable,
Yeah.
and, they had a lot of subs. And so I think you're seeing with the amount of money and the market share is those subs dropping out and
Breaking out and doing their
Right,
own.
Right. Because now, there's enough work for everybody to be their own prime at this
Yeah.
point. So.
Any questions for Adam? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Consider approving amendment to Rovi agreement. Harvey?
Staff recommends the board approve the amendment to the Rovi agreement for interactive guide services. This amendment extends the term of the current direct agreement 3 years until July 31st, 2025. Rovi is the software that runs on our advanced set-top boxes and enables DVR, video on demand, and search features. The fees that Rovi charges is covered are covered by the gateway fee, which is paid by customers who have those set-top boxes. There's no rate reset or increase. It just continues their annual increase of 3% or CPI, whichever is greater. The main reason that we engaged with Rovi was to get enriched metadata for Channel 10, so we'll be able to have poster art and advanced metadata for their programs when we roll out our Next Man Stream product. So happy to answer any questions on this item.
Questions for Harvey? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Consider mutual adjustment to pay compensation plan, overtime policy for mutual aid policy. Ms. Brown, how you doing? Good. Okay.
Good evening, board members. The mutual aid agreement specifies the manner in which FPB and other utilities coordinate sharing of crew resources during mutual aid emergency situations. FPB has executed a number of mutual aid agreements over the past several years with utilities in states of Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. It was noticed recently during a request for help for utilities during a mutual aid event that FPB was not compensating its responding employees consistent with most of the other participants. The current FPB compensation plan does not have a provision or a clause for mutual aid assistance or mutual aid pay compensation. After consulting with KMUA, it is determined that many of the other municipals in the state currently have a policy such as this or are in the process of adopting a policy. Staff asked the board to consider approving mutual aid pay and amend Section X of the compensation plan, subsection C, overtime. This is located in the detailed pages on page 252, with the effective date of August 1st, 2022. The proposed mutual aid response pay policy will be consistent with industry standards on mutual aid pay used by other utilities when responding to mutual aid requests. Does the board have any
I
questions?
think you had a question, didn't you, Steve? I know.
No.
You're okay on yours, John?
Yeah, Michelle, these mutual aid agreements, when we're sending the crew down to Letcher County, or we send them down to Mayfield and Princeton and those guys, we get reimbursed by them, and then FEMA goes in and reimburses the utilities, is my understanding, correct?
I believe, is that, yes.
Is that pretty much the way it works?
Yes, that's correct. We
Yeah.
we charge the utility almost like we were a contractor for
Right,
them.
and then they get
And-
their reimbursement.
and they
from
turn
FEMA.
that stuff into FEMA and get it
so
back.
This is not going to affect our expenses from, this is not going to affect our, there's not going to be an impact on our budget or anything like that in terms of maybe paying them a little more overtime or whatever. It's just going to be in line with what other utilities do when they send their crews on the road.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So what have we done, what do we do to date? Or what do we do now? Just
So currently, before this policy, our crews would get paid after they have worked 40 hours. So they wouldn't receive the time and a half until after they have worked 40 hours. What this policy is asking is, say if the crew left midday on Tuesday, from the time that they leave, their pay would start at the time and a half. And it doesn't have to, wouldn't have to already have exceeded the 40 hours.
in addition to pay, what else compensation do they receive? Like food stipend or?
I don't,
Their food is usually taken care of by the utility, but if you take, for instance, this situation, there was some food available in eastern Kentucky, some not. Their housing is usually taken care of.
Okay.
But those are all things we charge. If let's take, for instance, we have to get hotels, we will charge that to the utility at a per diem rate or the actual rate, depending on which one we have.
Okay.
Same thing with food is that way as well. So basically, when we went down in western Kentucky, for instance, that's when we really started to figure out that the vast majority of the other utilities were compensating their employees at this level. So KMUA did a study on it. We talked to a lot of other utilities over the next couple of months and kind of came to the conclusion that, our folks were leaving their families, heading out. Again, if you head out on a Monday, you're leaving your families, you're going down there. Everyone else they're running into is getting time and a half. And they were only getting the straight time.
Okay, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
So this is retroactive to the start of this current?
yes,
Yes.
August 1st, yes.
Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I need a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, let's just go straight to the voting. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Do we have a second?
And I will second.
Okay. Now, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Just a technicality, Cat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Item 5.9, consider award of bid invitation 1763, purchase of remanufactured transformers to Sunbelt Solomon and Emerald Transformers. This is one I think, Vint, you told us about, a meeting or so ago about these were kind of emerging as possibilities?
Was it a month ago or a month and a half ago, we got the bids back on the new transformers and had some considerable sticker
Yeah,
shock.
normally we do an annual price contract for new transformers. That bid was open July 7th, and most of them were at least triple the price. And the lead times, the lowest lead times were about 52 weeks. So we've had several meetings, thrown out. One of the ideas to try to fix that is to purchase remanufactured transformers. We've reached out to some of the vendors that sell those. I mean, they've bought surplus transformers from us in the past, and sent a bid out for that instead of awarding the annual price contract.
Then is there any reason to think that the remanufacturers won't perform acceptable compared to buying new?
I don't believe so. The warranty is actually better. It's 3 years, is that right?
One
Versus-
company, I believe it was Sunbelt, has a 3-year, Emerald was a 5. One was a 3, one was a
Usually
5.
when we're getting new transformers, those are what, a year to 2 years?
1 year, I think, on
So the
new.
warranty's better. Again, most cases, they're largely rebuilt. You're using the same case and some of the things. Sometimes I think the cores may be rewound on some of them. You know, we've never done this particular situation before, to be honest with you. We've had new transformers blow up, numerous ones. We've knocked manufacturers out before because we hang their transformers up and they blow up on the pole, brand new. So, again, you're looking at a bit better warranty. Usually if transformers are going to go bad, they go bad right away within pretty soon once you put them up. We believe, looking at the specs we put out and the things we asked them to go through and provide, we think these will be just as good. Again, we haven't done this in the past, so I can't guarantee that. But we're confident that this would be the best way to. Again, we're not going to buy. We'll buy the transformers we need and to keep in stock. If it doesn't work out or we think the quality's not there, obviously we'll back up and do something else next time we do it. To give you an idea, if you remember, some of those pad-mounted transformers were normally we'd paid in the $50,000 range, and they were $167,000 for one transformer. So you can imagine those costs get passed on to the customer.
I saw you eyeing that one that day at LG&E, thinking if you get it in the trunk or, yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about see if we could get a truck over there. But, yeah.
Any other questions for Vint or Jennifer?
So yeah, just what we're recommending
Yeah.
is to buy, it's going to 2 vendors because not all of them had everyone we needed available. So we're trying to buy what they had available, the low bidder for each item. So that's why it's kind of broke into both. I split the tab sheet up into which ones had available for the lower price.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
it's in
sir.
order, I'd like to make a motion to award bid invitation 1763 to both of the bidders based on the low price for each type of transformer listed.
Hey, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Jennifer, thank
Thank
you and
you.
Vint both for all your work on
Thank you.
bringing this, because you've saved us a lot of money.
I will have to say they've really been over backwards on this particular item. All the
Yeah.
purchasing, the electric department got involved, and I mean, you know how many reports they ran, how many things we looked at.
Yeah.
They really did a great job.
Thank you all.
I appreciate it.
Okay, informational items. On this one, I have to defer also to Ms. Mitchell, because this is one that you've had a real interest in getting done, so. Leanne?
All right, good evening. Staff recommends a slow approach in introducing EVs into FPB's fleet. EVs are relatively new, and there's little data on how they perform in day-to-day work setting. Staff prefers to purchase or lease 1 or 2 EVs in the current fiscal year and collect data on the vehicle for a year or so that we can make a more informed decision on adding additional EVs. Another reason for the slow approach is that we would eventually need some fast chargers installed at one of our facilities. And there's currently a lengthy lead time on the fast chargers. The chargers are also expensive. A level 2 charger is approximately $10,000 and level 3 is $100,000, and that price includes the purchase of the charger, the materials, and the installation. Staff evaluated the needs of each vehicle that is scheduled for replacement in the fiscal year 23 to determine if an EV would be an adequate replacement. And we're unique in that we're responsible for maintaining and restoring electric, water, and telecommunication services. There are times when electric is out for an extended period of time, and an EV would not be able to be charged and not able to use to respond during the times of emergencies. Additional factors are the daily mileage for each vehicle, the weight that it hauls, the work that it performs, and if there's an EV equivalent to the vehicle that's being replaced. There's one Ford F-150 pickup truck in the replacement schedule, It's driven by our security supervisor. The window to order the 23 model Ford Lightning has already closed, so we could push this out another year, this purchase, in hopes of getting one of the 2024 Ford Lightning EVs. And then there are 3 cable installer vans that are on the replacement schedule. The new vans that we have, that we've been purchasing, is the Ford Transit van mid-roof. And the EV version of this van is an E-Transit mid-roof. The range for the van is 116 miles, and the range would be a little bit less with weight of tools and equipment added, and where the installers power and charge their tools. The average daily mileage for these 3 vans is 48.47 miles per day. Both the Transit van and E-Transit van are on the Kentucky State price contract now. The Transit van is $44,655, and the E-Transit is $51,100. And after discussions with the Telecom superintendent, staff recommends replacing 1 or 2 of these vans with the E-Transit model to serve as test vehicles. And the remaining vehicles on the replacement schedule for 23 are larger vehicles that do not have an EV equivalent or are critical in responding to outages.
Catherine, did you?
Well, I appreciate your all's work on this, and clearly you've outlined some factors that are important aside from price and availability, but, you know, mileage and weight it hauls and all that. And I do agree with a slow or considered approach, and using these 2 vans as kind of the test on, at least on that model. You know, the industry is constantly changing on this, but you all have done the work with the inventory and outlining factors, and it'll just be a matter of kind of looking at them again each time. And so I'm confident in our practices now that have kind of been evolved and instilled, but I'm wondering if we could consider staff drafting a policy that would be in line with this approach, just so we can kind of codify it and know that it's there.
Because
for
I
the
guess
future.
maybe a year ago, we took the general direction of requesting staff do this, and then per your request, Catherine, we followed up, and everybody has a copy of the vehicle inventory. And so what you're looking at is to formalize something that says as we move past this year, we continue to do that evaluation as vehicles come up.
And to give consideration each time.
Is this something that can be added to our current, like, fleet replacement policy?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
You want to take a shot at that and bring it back to us at the next meeting?
Sure.
That's what that policy would look like, and incorporate what Catherine was talking about with our replacement policy, and and hopefully there'll be another. Is the Ford Lightning, is that the only light-duty truck that's out there that's all electric?
That's the only one that I've seen. There's some others that,
Chevy and Dodge haven't done anything yet.
I think Chevy is set to release one in the near future, but I don't think it has been released yet. And there were some other manufacturers that might have been like overseas or something. I've never heard of them before.
Because I know on the Ford Lightning, I know like Kane Ford has one that they're not allowed to sell.
Really?
And it's just on display. And I think they're stickering for 50, 60,000. And I read a report somewhere dealers aren't supposed to sell them because they're supposed to keep them 6 months so people could come and see them. And I think a dealer, don't hold me to it, but it was not in Kentucky, obviously, it was further west. And I think one dealer just went on and sold his for 150,000.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're getting, and hopefully there's more competition, they'll come down in price and availability.
Yeah, there are manufacturers like Rivian is one of the manufacturers
Yes.
that makes pickup trucks but the number of trucks they sold is very small. Are they going to be here 2 years from now?
Mhm.
Or what kind of support are you going to get? That's one of the things we need to consider. We're a Ford warranty. Don't we have a certification to do Ford warranty
Yeah,
work?
Ford certified.
We've tried to standardize roughly on Ford equipment because, as you can imagine, they use the same equipment across lines. The drivetrain may be different, but a lot of the other pieces are the same.
Suspensions, all that's going
Yeah.
to be the same. And
So there's a lot of advantages to us trying to standardize. We did that 5 or 6, 7 years ago.
It gives us access to like diagnostic programs
Yes,
too.
a lot more information in those access. So we do have to train our personnel. So I definitely would recommend against going with a company that is brand new, you know, maybe a little bit till they've proven themselves. So I think looking at the Ford Transits, Ford F-150s, those other options that we have, I agree with Leanne. I mean, the big three are going to obviously be putting out more and more of these as we go along. I think we're going to have more options, certainly, as we move forward.
Sure, Jim.
Will the purchase of these one or two vans, is that going to necessitate us putting a charger somewhere on at our either the cable telecom facility or somewhere, or how are we going to how are we going to figure?
Well,
what do you think would be the best way to handle that?
Yeah, we're gonna have to move forward with some charging infrastructure. I mean, you know, depending on some of the vehicles that we move through this process may be take-home vehicles, and we may work through a process. The employee may charge them at home, but we also have to have the capability to charge them
Here.
fairly quickly at the office. For instance, let's take a cable installer. Let's say something happens at the end of the day. They've driven their 50 miles, and here we go, and we got to keep going the rest of that day and the night. We have to be able to have some charging facilities, obviously, in-house. If the vehicle basically stays at our facility overnight, we have to be able to charge them overnight. The infrastructure to put those chargers, depending on what they are, we don't necessarily need the type that we're putting in downtown that have the network connection. We don't need that stuff. We're not charging someone else. It's coming out of our existing building services, and we're charging those. Those will be much, much cheaper unless you're going to DC charge, and then they're still pretty expensive to do that. We'll have to work on a comprehensive plan on, we have a parking issue out at our service center. As we get more and more of the vehicles, a lot of them are parked in the garage. There is no place to hook chargers up to. We'll have to figure out how we do that, how other companies are starting to do that. Again, we don't even have vehicle options available for our large trucks yet. Most of them are what's parked inside, but we're going to have to designate some space in our lots that we can charge these. The Telecom vans have they have a little bit better situation as far as they park in the same spot every night over there, so that will work a little better. Adam, do you have any comment on that?
If you hit on it,
Okay.
it's basically the on-call, you know, because if you're on call, you're taking a van home. And trying to work out those details, I think we can, you know, figure it out, and that's one reason why we kind of wanted to take a kind of a slower approach, and, you know, not replace every vehicle, but, you know, replace a couple, put them in, see how they work, and see what we need to tweak to, you know, to get them.
Well, I think, and I don't know what the options will be. I think Gary sent everybody the summaries of the new federal Inflation Reduction Act, and I don't know if I started going through it, but anyway, I mean, we know it's going to take a while for Treasury to write the regs. A lot of those bills have run-out dates all the way to 2035, and whether there's going to be the opportunity there, there's a lot of Buy American provisions there which will have an impact on community solar. And I know, Catherine, you and Jason are looking at that in terms of, you know, what makes sense, how we're proceeding to get those tax credits. And I know there's not that many community solar panels made in the U.S. right now, but whether we might qualify for some fast charging stations ourselves for our own operations that we could get, I mean, I think it's probably going to be several months before Treasury gets done writing those regs. I mean, there's a lot to go through there.
Even on the bill, the part of the additional 10%, the Build American, those effective date is already set later by 24, 25th.
Yeah.
So if you want to have that 10% additional each category, include panel or other material, you probably going to have wait longer. But in front, you can have a 30%, I think.
And it might be good if, when you look at it, Gary and your staff, if under the new regs for EV charging, because I know the current federal money is going to be focused on the interstate system, but if there might be some opportunities to get some fast charging for us, the city vehicles if they want to go, school buses if they want to go, county vehicles, to build something that could support all those and get some charging. I know the sheriff definitely wants that fast charging, but I mean, there's a lot of public agencies might have an interest if there was a way to put together a grant proposal to take care of lives. I know security of vehicles and that'd be something, but at that price, it'd be good if we could get some federal money to pay, whether it's 50%, 70%, whatever the cost might be.
I think you are correct. A lot of actually is the charging funding has come from federal, but is managed by state.
Right.
State has an office. We had a Kymea meeting. I met the gentleman on the DOT manage those projects. Based on his conversation, after first phase, they're going to build this 50-mile distance, large DC charge station follow the highway. After that, the next phase, there's a high chance there more money flow to the each county and city. Probably Ms. Snyder know more.
Yeah, you're right, Gary. We've, he was at KMUA in the spring, you and I were there. I work for RC with the Transportation Committee. They presented to us, they've got a plan they've submitted to the federal government. They had to submit their plan by August 1st. It's a three-phase plan. The first phase is the directive of the National Vehicle Infrastructure, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan, NEVI is what it's called, was the 50 miles on the interstate highway. So what we're doing is we're able to meld in our parkway system with that as well, because they're the 4-lane limited access. So that's going to be the first phase. The first phase is they're going to hit those 50 miles just off the interstates, and then they're going to go to branch out to US 23, AA highway, other kinds of major routes that help with connectivity. The issue there, though, is these are all meant to be public and not, you talked about for the use of the school or anything like that. I don't think the NEVI money is going to be one where we're going to be able to use it for any kind of exclusive use for us. So, and Gary was right. They're the requirements for those are a DC charger with four ports at each one. So that's kind of where they're at. So, but I don't know if IRA has got any specific things for infrastructure in terms of, localities or public utilities like us, whether we can take advantage of that or not.
There are a lot of part of level 2 charge station, which every vehicle already have it. If it's not, otherwise Amazon, you can purchase even the same brand, less than $2,000. I saw some is $800. But the key still is we need to have 240, 50 amps. Then any vehicle, they carry that charge with them. If at home they have a 50 amp, they can plug in, but we just need to figure out a policy to reimburse our employee. I think sheriff, they work on the policy to manage that portion. We can learn from them too if we need to go that direction. But DC charge is completely different. When it's correct, they are expensive. Even the 50 kW size need a 3-phase, and they can turn out and purchase self. We never got it even we purchased, but they are 50-some thousand before you put a labor installation, all that into it. So that's the different things. But if we get into EV, I think I agree. We need at least one DC charge, and they can give you 80% half hour is very important. Otherwise, level 2 can.
When do you think,
an hour? Yes.
if we go with the vans, which it sounds like, when would we get the first one? I mean, if we ordered, can you order them
The
at any
lead time
or-
right now is 20 to 26 weeks.
So about 6 months. So in less than 6 months, Adam, you need to figure out what you're going to do, buddy. Get this county installed and then swing back around on this and. Okay.
Yeah, I looked at you guys' list. It was really nice. It looks very comprehensive. I saw about 50 possible under current technology, most of them light-duty vehicles, and then in the notes to the side where the other light-duty, they were just being taken out of commission, or they had to last longer emergency. So really nicely done.
Thank you.
And then I was just wondering, are we thinking about if, like these vans and other electrics, do we want to have a special plant board decal or something to sort of point out that they're electric and that, we're driving on our power? But I don't know, that's up Kathy's alley. It'd be nice to have something that points it out, makes it clear.
Next band with a lightning bolt through it for.
Anyhow, great job.
Maybe we ought to leave that to the design professionals, John, okay?
Thank you. Just holding a grudge, buddy. Next one is the report on weatherization. Travis?
All
All right, so last month, we renewed our annual contract with Bluegrass Community Action for energy audit and weatherization services. So at last month's meeting, we discussed coming back with some reports for the board to review, discuss the success of the program or ways we can improve it. So this being the first time, I just kind of took a stab at what the report should look like. The approach I went with is I took each customer that's received service, I looked at their most recent 12 months usage and the 12 months prior to that, and then did a year-over-year comparison for each customer. If you're looking through the reports that begin on page 269 of the board package, I would tend to more focus on the first 2 months, because those would be, if you take into consideration the customer may have received, they may have wrapped up their service in the spring of this year, it being a newer program. So July, June, May, those months, I would tend to focus in on a little bit more to see whether we're doing well or not. Another thing to point out, one of the customers through Bluegrass Community Action received a new heat pump. So if you look at customer 2, their usage is up across the year. I don't think that's necessarily an indication that we didn't do well here. They got a new heat pump where they didn't before. That wasn't funded by us. That was through some of their other funding sources.
And they could have, if they got a heat pump, that could be up. But if their old system was natural gas, that natural gas bill is now gone, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. My understanding is they didn't have heat at all. That was what was communicated to me. So, again, so if I look at, aside from a couple outliers, it looks like these past few months, most of our customers are trending well. Again, it's, I've been in the business for over 10 years now. I get surprised by my electric bill sometimes too. So those outlier months are going to happen. But I think the big thing is, wanted to get something to the board and get your input on the format. Is there anything specific we were looking for that's not here, or changes to the formatting?
Steve, this has been an area you've been real interested in.
Well, I can't tell, but again, it's out of our field now. I'm just interested in the targeted area, and I think that's being satisfied by who's administering the program, so.
Yeah, so it's to income qualified electric customers. They have to meet I think it's 200% of the poverty level, which is what they use for most of their applicants. That's the benchmark. You mentioned hitting the targeted customers. I think in the packet that Kathy handed out earlier, the flyer, we're trying to up some of the advertisement. Yeah, that's the one. Up the advertisement a little bit. We've got enough funding to do, like I said, we've done 5. We can do a little bit more than that with our current budget. So we're trying to get a little more interest. It's a bit of a balancing act though, because it's somewhat limited availability. So we don't want people being down the door. But
Has Bluegrass CA, have they told us, is the need outstripping the available funds, or is what we're providing for them and what their needs are, plus they're getting the state and federal funds for weatherization and energy assistance? Do they need more, or what's your assessment?
No, they have not indicated that. I think they're happy with the program as is. I'm sure, if we were to look to expand down the road, I'm sure they'd be happy to do so. But I think it really helps with some of their customers that maybe would not be first in line for some of their bigger funding opportunities. I think it helps them a lot there. So yeah, the way I understand, they're happy with the program as is.
I guess I'd like to see some maybe comparison at a more global level. So if you can blend all the charts together to show like bar charts by customer, so we can sort of see the fluctuation and get a general trend per month. And then I guess I'd like to see it compared against a cohort, like if there's an average on a square foot basis, BTU per square foot, just something so we know these could be complete outliers to like a normal. But if we have like a normalization curve that we could kind of put it against, I don't know how hard that'd be. But I think that would just help us see the big picture. So when we see these laid out, it would be normalized.
I think it makes sense. We should be able to come up with something very similar. Yeah.
And there may be some good census data out there for this area on housing, energy costs. And University of Kentucky School of Agriculture does a lot of review on this kind of economics for a lot of different factors. And UK School of Ag Economics might have some good data.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and of course we've got our, we can look at our our residential class as a whole and compare it to that, that may be another good benchmark. You know, that's a much more, you know, much broader group, but, yep, I think it.
Okay, it's awesome. Good
Yeah,
job.
okay, great.
I think one of the things we had mentioned before, and I don't know if this was captured or can be captured, but what's the rationale given if after the survey's done, they don't do any of the recommended improvements?
Right, so with the Bluegrass Community Action Program, they're doing the audit and making some improvements, so that's included in this. So last year when we did the audits only, customers may or may not take any action. With this new, the Bluegrass Community Action Program, they are receiving some actual physical improvements to their property. So the contract stipulates it needs to be insulation, weather stripping, those types of things. It's limited to an average of $2,000 per customer, so big ticket items are probably not going to be included, but a lot of them are receiving insulation, weather stripping, those types of things.
So everyone doing the audit now is doing some level of improvements.
Correct, they are, yes.
So if they go out and do the audit and you can see daylight through the bottom of the tops of the windows, they're going to put plastic, they're going to do something
Right.
to help
yeah.
that family.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Yep.
Great job.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, Mr. Dlum, Community Solar.
Sure. So staff's just continuing to refine the formula they're using to evaluate where we can come in as far as costs and subscriptions and buy-ins. We actually met last week. I think it was the day after the Climate and Energy Inflation Reduction Act bill was passed. So that's throwing a good wrench into things. You know, we might be able to take advantage of some tax credits, and so, you know, so you kind of have to redo the numbers and see where we go. And as you pointed out, it's going to take a while before we actually get regulations and this all kind of you get kind of flesh on these bones and know what we can do with it. So that's a really positive thing. So we're just going to have to keep refining once we get more information. And I will say Jason's had some great ideas and is helping kind of push the envelope.
Well, that's great. And I would say that, you know, the staff is doing a great job in sort of looking at all the factors, including setting the paybacks maybe on the life of the system as opposed to like a payback of an investment. So that then lets us potentially bring that lower rate to the customer. And then also our biggest thing is just demand in the community. Like, I know the board is very serious about not overstripping demand, so we've been looking at a couple options to maybe have potential additional off-takers within the community for demand, almost in a rec program, but we're still exploring that. So that might allow us to build to scale based on the cost and not demand, and then we'll have demand through a few different options. So we're exploring that, but currently the staff is doing a great job. We've gotten the price down a bit lower than what was previously mentioned, but until we get an actual bid, we were not going to be able to nail that down for that first phase of work.
And I think, Vince, you mentioned, and you all working with Catherine and Jason, how far, in order to keep the momentum, how much planning and development and prep could we do without jeopardizing the federal tax credit? You know, how far can we get? And I think that's something I know we can't answer tonight, but as the rules come out, or as we get wind of how much development planning can we go up to pulling the trigger before we jeopardize getting that federal funding going forward?
I don't know if I know all the answers on how far we can go. I think we can't break ground on it until after the beginning of the year, according to what I've read. Again, I would say I've read high-level summaries, like most people have. That's as far as I know. As far as, you know, Gary, I don't know, does he know? I don't think there's any problem with planning
or developing an RFP or getting those type things ready and marketing materials and.
We definitely. You know,
Well, I would just say, so number one is, let's just be clear, in the new bill, it's not a tax credit for nonprofits, it's a direct reimbursement.
Right, yes. Yeah.
different animal.
Yeah.
Tax credit would do us no good.
Right, because,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's all good. And then two, I really think that the reimbursement, however the Treasury comes out with it, is more going to be setting the rates on the back end. So if we can eliminate really the question of demand on the front end, like we're like, okay, we're going to build it, they will come in some form or fashion, then we could probably get pretty far down the road and then kind of let the rate set itself once we're ready to offtake. But there's a little chicken and the egg there.
Yeah.
I just don't want us to get held up arbitrarily waiting on our hands for a Treasury department that could be 9 months.
yeah.
When we could go ahead and get started. But it's a great wind in our sails for sure.
Because, I mean, if you look at those bills, the summaries, I mean, Treasury's got a lot of work to do, but I'm sure there's a lot, whether it's us or the LG&Es or anybody else, there's a lot of people going to be wanting to move forward, so I assume there'll be some pressure on Treasury to move this.
Well, and the biggest thing I think we need to consider is that we already have a solar industry that is sort of coming out of a rocky time period with the whole China tariff and all that. And this is dumping jet fuel into that industry. We're going to suddenly have entire sectors open up that have never really been competing: schools, churches, hospitals. So we probably should get moving on this sooner rather than later, at least get some body locked down, because we could find ourselves in a position with transformers
Yeah.
suddenly 2 or 3 years out building a basic solar system. That's more like on a utility scale. So I think it is, if we have a design, we have a plan, we have a piece of land, we have a budget, which we do, we should move forward as fast as we can to lock down a vendor, or we might find ourselves in a position where we can't build one because
You bring
of
up a
the
good
demand.
point, because a lot of times what you'll find is on these type of things, there's the assistance there, but the price increases will eat up all the money coming back, because they'll price it. If vendors know there's a limited market, they'll price it so high that they'll actually,
Yeah.
it take all the credit, all the reimbursement you're getting back to take you back to where you were.
Well, and maybe I'm jaded, maybe I'm not as, maybe I'm as jaded as you've been by the world.
Oh, I'm pretty.
For good reason.
If you got it, they will come. If you've got it, they'll charge you for it.
No, I kid. You've seen a lot more than I have in
Well,
these kind of
I think
situations.
I think our experience with the cable,
Yeah.
with the telecom build out in the county, with that money being pumped in, I think, you talk about pouring jet fuel into it. That's one of the things that's going to happen when you pour jet fuel into something. The potential for that is there.
Yeah, my sense, it might go the other, and my sense is the one bottleneck will be from the actual panels and the inverters and things, so we'll run into the technology
Yeah.
front. And the other one is quality. We'll have suddenly everybody and their mother become a solar company, just tack the shingle out and be like, oh yeah, I'm an electrician, I can do that.
Yeah. Or I'm making panels in my backyard. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get to that point, but I have more people who are calling themselves an installer because they have a parallel service, like, oh, we do electric and lighting, what's solar? It's lighting.
Yeah.
It's just lighting plus, so we might find ourselves in a quality control issue. So I'd say the sooner we can move forward on at least identifying an RFP, finding some vendors, locking them down for a time frame, and then also what I've generally heard is that December through February is kind of the dead season, just because you can't pour concrete as well. People kind of slow down a little bit, and then they really crank up again in March. So I don't even know if we could, if even we tried, we could install something this year, but maybe by March, we could really hit the ground running. So-
You would be, I mean, this is just, and it's nothing we can do ourselves certainly, but whether KYMEA could do it, or KMUA could do it, or even the state do it, if there's going to be a lot of federal money and a lot of utilities, municipals doing it, this might be an area that the state very well could go out and try to do some things on some state price contracts. Bid it, have it available, and then you can buy off of it, which would eliminate the quality and the pricing, because then they could set the standards, and this is what it's going to have to be, this is the pricing, and everybody can buy off of it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're looking at a perfect storm here for the next
Yeah.
few years, which the market will step up to meet demand, but once again, there may be a lag. So since we've already done so much good work with Catherine's leadership to do this, we should front end this as hard as we can, I think, just to make sure we don't fall behind that.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I want to mention a little bit to support Gray, two board member involved in this whole project. Actually, I do want the rest board member know, and when the staff present the formula calculation, right? One thing is very unique, we never done that before, is we put a full cost recovery into the formula. Means this project, we can honestly say, hopefully, that's the end of the day, we prove that, is nobody subsidizes it. It's a self-supported. I think I like to say that very clearly because that's what they tell us when we want to try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we did that specifically because if you don't do it that way, it won't be, we can't scale it over
Right.
time if we want to.
Right.
We need to make this thing on its own feet.
Yeah.
So, but the good thing is the numbers speak for themselves, so.
But I'll try to be more positive, Jason, in the future about
No,
about the market taking advantage of us.
I'm a little too optimistic for my own good sometimes, so thanks for the counterbalance.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, no, thank you all.
Thank you.
Last one is Nichelle, Casey, and Ryan. This is another one we've had talks about in terms of, we've been trying to recruit some positions in IT for some time. It's a market that's tough to be in. We've tried advertising, and Nichelle and the rest of the staff have looked at various options, and you're going to tell us what you come up with.
Yes, sir. So we're going to decide to continue and go ahead and use the vendors that currently hold master agreements with the state. And our goal is to tempt to hire and to hire a full-time FPB employee. So right now, we didn't want to try to do a super grade as you had asked about. We wanted to see if this option would work. And we also feel this would broaden our talent pool by being able to tap into some of the resources that the state contractors already have. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do.
So what we've got, if you remember, there was kind of three approaches we could do. We could go, like Nichelle said, in essence, a super grade, which would be kind of market-based and be significantly higher than what we're advertising the spots. The other would be to use the state price contract, which I've had a lot of experience with over the years, and they recruit people, and of course what you have is, you have the same people you would hire as an employee, but then whoever's managing that contract adds their profit on top, which means you're paying for what the employee salary is and another X percent over top. And the other would be just going out for like a personal service contract, just 1099 type employee. My experience with the state price contract has been, once you get the people on staff, they're good people, a lot of state agencies use them, COT, Department of Education, so forth, and once you get them there and depend on them, and they become part of your staff, they never go away, but you're paying that premium. And you go back out to the market and there's nobody there to hire in their place. I think, Nichelle, you said you've built in, or there's some provisions in some of these, there's some incentives to be able to transition these people after a short time, is that right?
Correct, correct.
You might want to go into that for
Okay.
the board.
So, in speaking with one of the managers with one of the temp agencies, they will adjust where there would be an incentive. So the individual would make a certain amount when they are contracted with us. And then if we decide to retain them, then they would go and receive our compensation, which would be a little bit higher. So therefore, there's an incentive to come on, to sign on with us, opposed to where we're already paying top dollar and can't go up any higher. And so the funds that we're going to pay the temp agency, in addition to having the employee, is funds that we're not paying into the Kentucky retirement while we're going through the temp process. So,
And the contribution rate for the Kentucky retirement system is 84% of salary, compared to 28%, which is CERS, which is what we're currently in. The state ARC, which is not an ARC anymore, it's a fixed amount, but it's 84% of salary. And then you add Social Security on and everything else. The state fringe rate's about 120%, 125% of payroll, which makes a lot of these contracts very attractive to the state, because even paying the profit to the vendors is not 125% of salary. So if you hire somebody at $90,000 for the state, with salary and fringe, you're well over 200 in salary and fringe. It's tough in state government hiring state employees because of that fringe rate. So I think we don't have to take any action on this. I think Nichelle's done a lot of work, looked at all the options, tried to look at what UK, state government, everybody else is paying. UK's IT department's about 500 people. But I mean, it's a competitive market, and we need some of these people, and I mean, I think it's a state price contract. We don't have to do anything other than say, this is what we want, check the people out. If it doesn't work, we'll be back to where we are today. So unless anybody has any concerns or problems, we can obviously make this an action item, but right now it's for information unless we want to give her some different direction. Does everybody?
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Go forth and do good. General manager comments. One thing Gary and I talked about real briefly, and it's never too early to talk about Christmas. For your all's thinking, don't have to do anything tonight. Over the next week, 10 days, 2 weeks, let Kathy Poe know. We might want to consider the December meeting, which is that week going into Christmas, moving that either to earlier that day, like around 1 or so, or that Monday instead of the Tuesday, or the preceding Thursday or Friday. Take a look at your plans. Gary's checking with staff's plans to kind of give them that week to plan, and just kind of let Kathy know what your thinking is about a board meeting, and then we'll kind of go from there, and we can discuss it at the September meeting. But Gary pointed out that that's something we may want to think about. Thanksgiving week isn't a problem. Thanksgiving is the week after our board meeting, but the Christmas is going to run right into that week. So if you've got travel plans, that would let staff make some plans, whatever, so.
That is scheduled for December the 20th,
Mhm.
which is the Tuesday of Christmas week.
Yeah.
So, just to give you some insight.
Yeah, and like I said, just let Kathy know, and then she can kind of put together a consensus, and then we can act on it in September.
What are the options?
We could go we could go rather than like at 5 o'clock that night, we could go just earlier in that day, or we could do the Monday as opposed to the Tuesday, or we could back up to the Friday before and do it like at 1 in the afternoon, and then clear that whole week out. So whatever works out for everybody.
I think the Friday before at 1 is
Mhm.
probably first good thing to look at.
And holiday meetings are always shorter. Sometimes. So,
Probably my vote.
Okay.
That would be the 16th.
Yeah.
December the 16th.
Yeah.
Friday is Friday.
so, Gary, did you have anything else you want to bring up?
No.
Okay, the next item, Mr. Snyder, I'll turn to you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61A10-1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding an OSHA matter, contract matter, and cost recovery action, as well as pursuant to 61A10-1G, which is a discussion concerning a specific proposal, the open discussion of which would jeopardize the siting of a business.
A second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Can I add to that? Can I
Hold
add
it.
to that?
Oh, yeah.
A grievance
We
issue.
also need to amend that for proposed litigation regarding an employment matter.
Grievance, employment matter. That's sufficient. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, he's amended that. Catherine, you still
Second.
second? Okay, we have a motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're in closed session. We'll take 5 minutes here real quick.